I'm David Groninger in Seattle, Washington, and I have this rather creative idea that I can create a 10-minute message that can help 10 million people. I have no idea if this is ever going to come about, but I do know this, that if I give one 10-minute talk a day for 3 years, that'll be over 1,000 talks, and within at least one or more of these talks, of 1,000 talks, I think one of them is going to be a winner. So I'm going to give it a go. I have no idea if it's going to happen, but I do know that each talk will be 10 minutes long. I have my trusty alarm clock here set to go off in about 9.5 minutes now. So each day I ask myself, well, what is a 10-minute message that I can create that just might help 10 million people? So the idea I have today is on the idea of our values. And particularly the idea I have today is this. It's the synergistic effect of our values, or the synergy of our values. Now, synergy is when you have, two things that come together, and because of the interaction, each one of them becomes, more enabled, or there's like a third entity created that's actually more effective, stronger, or larger than the two when they're separate. So synergy can be a wonderful thing in teamwork, in people coming together and sharing ideas. You have the synergy whereby 1 + 1 is more than 2. So in the synergy of values, I wrote down my values. My top value, for example, is freedom, and my second value is presence, the ability to be present, in the present moment, being in the now. And when you see the relationship just between those two top values, when I'm in the idea of freedom, when I feel free, at least I'm free to be aware of being in the now. I'm free to be present. My mind can be free to direct myself to being in the present, in the here and in the now. And the more present I am, the more aware I am of the expression of my freedom, or the quicker I am to identify if somehow something or someone is trying to curtail or hinder my freedom. The more present I am, the more alert I am to the way people interact with me. So my third value is life. Now, life is related to presence because, the more life you have, I think it's easier to be present when you're healthy, when you have life, when you feel, really, really full of life. I think it's easier to feel a sense of presence. When you feel half dead, you don't feel very much in the here or now. You feel like you're in kind of a blasé kind of a land, or a foggy kind of a place. So, and the relationship between life and freedom, well, the concept of freedom, it relates to life because a part of feeling alive is having freedom. And when our freedom is taken away from us totally, sometimes we lose our will to even have life. And sometimes the more freedom that we have, the more we love life and the more life we want to have. And the more life we want to prosper and grow all around us, including the people and the things that grow. Well, my fourth value is health. So you see how these things work together. Now, the more I focus on my health, the more life I have. So that helps my life. And the more I focus on my health, the easier it is, again, to have a sense of presence. And also freedom and health are related because if you really work on your health, then you can express your freedom in different ways. You can travel, you can do more with your day. You're free to, you feel more free to maybe take extra classes at a university at night after work because your health is good. You're not so wiped out from your job that you have to just go home and crash or watch TV and eat, you can do something even more creative and constructive because you're focusing on your health. And my fifth value is pace of joy. And I just mean doing what I do, going through life at the pace of joy. In other words, I don't go any faster than I can enjoy. And now this usually means I'm about 10% slower than most other people, including the way I drive, the way I walk, the way I work. However, I want to give you a fascinating formula that I came up with, that if you cut down your pace, cut down the speed at which you operate in your life just by 10%, and you focus on doing it at the rate of enjoyment, at the pace of joy, I think you can double the quality of the experience. You can double the quality of your enjoyment. So it's like a little formula that I have no idea how accurate it is, but for me, it goes like this. I move 10% slower. If I'm on a crowded downtown street, I'm not walking hurriedly like everybody else. I'm over to the side so I don't get run over near the building, near the buildings, but I'm walking about 10% slower than everybody else. And for me, that's very relaxing. And I see all these crowds just hurrying along without any concept for how slow or fast they're moving. But a lot of them do not appear like they're totally in enjoyment of the process. I try to focus on the enjoyment of the process. I walk at the pace of joy. So I walk 10% slower, but yet I somehow feel like I'm getting, twice as much enjoyment. So notice that when you're at the pace of joy, then this relates to my second value, which is being present. Because in order to operate at the pace of joy, I have to be present to know that I'm going at the pace of joy, and I have to be present to observe around me how faster everybody else is going, and for me to slow down so I can be relaxed and enjoy the process more. I think too that at the pace of joy, just like the idea of pacing yourself in your career, in your work, in your relationships, pacing yourself relates to our health. When we try to speed up too much in life, trying to get too much done, try to not get enough sleep because we want to just go, accomplish too much for the energy we have to put into it, this can affect our health. Well, at the pace of joy, I believe this supports my health quite a bit. And it certainly supports my mental health. Now, my sixth value is self-development, self-growth. Basically, the ability to manage my emotions, my thinking. And you see how this relates to pace of joy, because if I am managing my emotions, then this relates to the ability to go at the pace of joy, because the reason I want to move at the speed of how much I can enjoy the movement, this relates to my ability to think about how I'm doing things and how I feel about the whole process. And my value here is to feel happy, to feel good. So my seventh value is money, the financial part of life. And you see that if a person has, for example, health, which is my third value, when I have health, isn't it easier for me to work harder and smarter and maybe take on something of a greater ambition, not to put more effort into it, but to put more wisdom into it? When I have more health, isn't it going to be a little bit easier for me to manage my money and to perhaps be productive and to be successful in the accumulating and in the earning of money? So this is how all these things work together. And when I'm more successful financially, is not this going to influence positively my freedom? Don't I have more freedom to travel, which costs money, or the freedom to maybe buy a slightly, better working car, or maybe live in a neighborhood that's safer and has more amenities? So our financial success can influence our freedom, as long as we don't use money as such a high value that we destroy our other values, like health and things like this. Well, my next three values are romance, and then travel, and then piano. You don't see the piano, it's behind me out of the picture, but I love to play the piano. So the idea of this talk is simply this. If you were to ask yourself, what are your values? And then you really analyze your values, how they relate to each other, how each one helps the other one. You're going to find a lot more enthusiasm you're going to have in really working on your values, expressing your values, being true to your values, and seeing how you can protect your values from being, impeded upon by other people. Well, here's my alarm clock's going off, so I'm going to turn off this annoying clock. Well, I've gone for 10 minutes, and the motivation for this talk originally is this, that I wanted to create a 10-minute message that will help 10 million people. I'm not a trained speaker. I'm making these messages in order to teach myself how to speak. I look at my messages and take notes afterwards, looking at what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully don't repeat the same mistakes on the next talk. So when I asked myself the question today, well, what kind of a message could I create that might help 10 million people that was only 10 minutes long? What came to mind today was to merely communicate what my values are and to show that there is a synergistic relationship between values, and that you can use this synergistic relationship to motivate you to be more true to your values. And I listed my values as, my top value is freedom, then presence, then life, then health, pace of joy, self-development, money and financial success, romance, travel, and piano. So every time you take one of your values and you work on it, you develop it, you use it as a priority, and as soon as you start on your next value, you'll find how the next value can contribute to the other value and how each one can help the other one. And by the time you have like 6 or 7, I think I listed about 8 or 9 values, when you have them all working together, each one of them becomes very, very strong. Each one of these values gives value back to our lives. It is valuable to identify your values and to study the synergistic relationship on how each value can contribute to the other value. And all of this kind of as a whole can contribute to your quality of life. Well, I've already cheated my audience. Please forgive me. I've gone at least 2 minutes over my 10-minute mark. So I'm going to conclude at this time, and I'm going to say this is David Groninger in Seattle, Washington, saying thank you.